I've never seen anything like it before, and to attempt to hit the ball out of there is pure madness.
The winner of the gold medal and the champion golfer of the year is Cameron Smith.
This is the one that I've always wanted to win since I was a little kid. So it just feels pretty amazing to be able to get it done today.
It's amazing that it's my destiny to be the first Aussie to win. Just incredible.
Hello and welcome to Playing from the Tips and the 111th episode of Golf Australia Magazine's preview and tipping show that traverses the world of professional golf, offering all you need to know and some things you don't ahead of the week's tournaments. My name is Jimmy Emanuel and I am your host as we look at the PGA Tour, LPGA Tour, Asian Tour and DP World Tour action as we prepare for another major championship in a week's time. To talk all that and so much more, the man who is so prolific in podcasting that he has been petitioning for years to have it renamed Rodcasting, Sydney Podcast Studio czar, Rod Murray.
Czar.
I like czar.
I've given people the opportunity to be czars at various times.
Yeah.
If you're a czar, I've never had the chance. Thank you, Jimmy. That's hit me in the feels.
Yep,
that's touching.
Good. I'm glad. Next, he's had a week of not comparing himself to major champions because there's no major championship on, but he hasn't stopped his assault on the Sydney golfing scene as he chips the ball in the air despite skill, technique and mental issues. Welcome, Adrian Logue.
Thank you, Jimmy. Yeah, a little bit more Scheffler-like this past week.
Just going straight to
just consistent golf. I had 37 points, just consistent golf. Never, no wipes.
You're the player that's been coming, haven't you? The last few weeks, It's just been building to something.
Yeah.
And
he was just 31 under par or something.
Yeah,
and I had 37 points, so that's kind of a win.
Rarefied air, but in the threes, you two.
Yeah. Simple math tells you win by 6.
Well.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, he'd probably have. Scotty's probably give a few shots back to the course.
37 greater than 31.
And it took him 4 rounds to get to 31.
Exactly.
You played 1 and got to 37.
Exactly.
Try another job, Sheffield. You don't know what you're doing.
That is a good point for us to jump off into our spot where we do highlights and lowlights the week that was. Scotty Scheffler, 31 under par, 8-shot win, just ridiculous.
Everything Scheffler did last week was just majestic.
There was Eric Van Rooyen's playing with him in the last round and starts. I think he turns in 30.
Yeah.
He's still 8 shots back.
Yeah, good luck.
Just Jordan Spieth played with him the first 2 rounds and he said, I've been pretty good.
Yeah, I know what good golf looks like.
I know what good golf looks like. And he goes, I don't say I'm not better than someone very often. I'm not better than him.
It's an intriguing proposition we could finally have a proper golf rivalry again, a bit like the big three, but done in the right spirit with Rory and Scheffler. They're both playing sort of otherworldly golf in different ways. This could be a really, really important year for golf in terms of that'll be a great thing to watch on. Yeah, you don't for all the fun of the Ryder Cup and the President, where there's a bit of niggle and sometimes it's genuine. The game itself lends itself to a rivalry like McIlroy Scheffler. We'll talk about it when we get to the tournament. But if Rory comes out this week and wins, it feels like game on, and what a treat that will be for us as spectators if those two can lift.
And even with, I think we mentioned it last week, it was a bit odd that Scotty is going to skip this week's signature event ahead of the PGA Championship.
Well, he can afford it,
week, but plays last week in a non-signature event. People kind of go, he likes playing in Texas at home. It's probably pretty good scheduling from Scotty, I'd say, judged off how his form's gone there. So you mentioned rivalries as well. Bryson wins for the first time since the US Open last year in Korea, Live Golf Korea for the first time. So
God, he's adaptable.
Yeah.
He somehow figures it out.
When he puts his mind to something,
exactly.
he's got a lot of talent.
Which is why he will win the Masters one day. I'm convinced of it.
Yeah, and I think Bryson, everyone talks about whether the competitiveness is there for the players. Bryson is the greatest example of you can only beat the players you're playing and you can only win the tournament you're playing. Which is probably Scotty Scheffler too, going and playing a lesser event of, I don't need the motivation of it being the Masters. Obviously that raises it, but I want to win and I need to beat these players on this golf course.
This competitiveness on the Live Tour, it's interesting. Isn't it? Great for young players who find their way to Live, get to play with great players and see where they're going. What's in it for the great players?
Yeah, well, you can beat Charles Howell III or something.
That's kind of the issue. And I take your point about Bryson.
And Richard Bland.
It relies on a self-motivation. Bryson would be better competitively if he teed up regularly on the PGA Tour against Rory and Scotty Scheffler.
He
would be playing better.
Yeah, potentially there would be greater form runs, but
it's interesting though.
Notably, quite a disgusting goatee from Bryson, so we don't endorse that.
Okay.
Yeah.
We don't endorse.
That's a low light.
We don't
You did ask for low lights.
Yeah, we don't endorse
that's true.
this show. We don't endorse goatees. We endorse facial hair, but we don't endorse goatees.
I have a low light.
I was going to say you
Well, let's give you a highlight first. Hey, Yuan Ru,
Yeah.
you tipped her to win.
Of course.
Very impressive, and just really
Especially after last week.
worked her way into being one of the top players without a huge profile.
100%.
Yeah.
Highlight. Low light, low.
Well, Danny Lee, I thought
Oh, I had him. Don't worry, he's coming. We'll get to him.
You're getting out in front of
Yeah.
me here, are you, Logue?
I mean, look, I gave him a shot
You did.
and he's finished dead flat last behind Anthony Kim.
Yeah.
Ferguson, you.
You've got exactly.
I don't think Ferguson ever did him that bad.
No, he's never done me that bad. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Lesson learnt all round.
I think another highlight, photo of Mike Clayton with his
Yes,
winning
well, very
trophy photo from 41 years ago
Fantastic,
at the Caltex Mykung Open.
What a weird pose he was in.
Oh, Yeah,
in 1984.
it was so un-Clayton-like. It was just...
Idiot.
I would like somehow for us to get that from Korea and have it put up in the walls. Or at Angus and Grayscale Golfing, wherever we choose. We can take it with us on the road. I want that picture. And one other highlight, I think, for all of us who know him personally as well, Jeff Ogilvy announced as President's Cup captain. Just been talking to him a little bit.
The event too.
Great for the event. Very passionate about it. It's the right thing. And to hear him speak about it, he's spoken to Australian media today, did a little bit last week, about the passion and what it is. And he said this morning, if he was the guy to get the next win, that's probably number one in his career. Which, if you think about a guy who won a US Open, won Australian Open, Australian PGAs, has done a lot. That's a remarkable thing.
Got to number 3 in the world.
Yeah.
I feel like the combination of Ogilvy and Adam Scott at this point in his career with the President's Cup, he's really the only player who's taken it seriously his whole career, Adam Scott. I don't mean that to denigrate, but others have drifted in and out.
Yeah.
But Adam Scott carries a President's Cup towel week to week to dry his...
A lot of them
What he
do.
used to,
Yeah.
So he is genuinely into it. Those two combined, Scott with an Australian captain, he and Ogilvy are good mates anyway.
Yep.
I think that could be really good. I've got one last highlight, Steph Kyriako's Albatross,
Absolutely.
which was amazing to see.
Oh, yeah.
What I was interested in, for all those who like to compare at home, she had a 5-wood from 212 metres. She carries it 195. For all of you at home who are 195 metres, that's what she carries it forward. So all of you at home wondering about the LPGA versus the PGA Tour versus
relatable.
how you go, I would think you'd probably that'd be about standard for a decent single figure. 5, mate. That'd be
Most, if we went and polled single-figure golfers around Australia today,
We're talking
and
about
said,
facts, Jimmy.
How far do you carry your 5-wood? They'd start to tell us it's 220, 215. It goes that eventually, but it does a lot of that work on
in
the
summer.
ground. Yes.
They're called alternative facts, Jimmy. We were
Yeah.
introduced to these a few years ago.
Never compared yourself to Steph Kyriako, and she played behind us. It's a microphone.
Well, how does she stack up yardage-wise in this ongoing Logue versus professional golf world?
I don't know. I'd have to.
She's got him by heaps. I can tell you.
She does.
Finally, on last week, we had 3 top 10s and 2 wins. So Logue, obviously, with the LPGA victory. I had Scotty Scheffler because I did it for the team, if you remember.
Went out on a limb.
Meanwhile, although you had Danny Lee for dead last in your Korean-themed tips, I jumped off Esther Henselite, and she came tied second.
I was impressed.
But I got Ronnie Yin,
that
who
was
also
notable.
came tied second.
Yeah.
So
Good performance from almost all of those players who were in that playoff last week at the Chevron. Excellent for all of their confidence to be able to come back and do something. Ronnie Yin especially.
Ronnie Yin's bounce back, very impressive, which I predicted. So let's just move along from there. But all of that adds up to 59 top 10s and 27 wins on the year for us combined. Rod, you know those are numbers unrivaled by a podcast where the group chat had multiple messages about cart paths and concrete extrusions last week. I think only one.
Yeah.
Concrete extrusions. I don't know what that means.
Neither do I.
I still don't know it.
I'm sure they're necessary.
I'm sure someone will.
Wonderful innovation. Run those numbers, Jimmy, and you're quite right.
Yes.
Unrivaled.
On we go to this week, and let's start with the latest signature event on the PGA Tour at the Truist Championship. It's the 5th signature event of this season, and unlike last time when it came the week after a major, this time it comes the week before the PGA Championship. You may be more familiar with some of the tournament's previous names, Wells Fargo, Quail Hollow, or Wachovia Championship. Normally played at Quail Hollow, but that will host the PGA next week, so that makes a requirement for a move, which probably gets us some of the most exciting golf for the week. Because this tournament goes to, for the first time, the PGA Tour has ever played here, the Philadelphia Cricket Club's, now this is a very difficult pronunciation, Wissahickon course. So
It's pretty easy.
Wissahickon.
Wissahickon.
Yeah, okay. The oldest country club in the United States, Philadelphia Cricket Club.
Anything called cricket club in the US is almost guaranteed to be something special.
Very classy.
Because
isn't
you
it?
can assume what it is. It was a bunch of English people who started up a club to play cricket, but they built some golf. They had 9 holes. There's 2 locations. The initial location is not where we're playing this week. That has a golf course. St. Martin's, that is
I've played
correct.
there.
There you go. Of course you have. But the secondary location is Flower Town in Pennsylvania. And
FLOUR, by the way, not
correct.
FLOWER.
Correct. And that was actually the name of this golf course, Flower Town, before it is now. So
That's a brilliant name for a golf.
how good is it?
It's
The
much
Flower
better than
Town.
Oaks or Lakes or Waters.
I love
it's
it.
brilliant. Flower Town.
It's an A.W. Tillinghast design, and it was his kind of local club as well.
Ooh.
So spent a lot of time there. Remarkably, though, Keith Foster did a restoration, not a renovation, anything like that, restoration in 2013 that's received quite a bit of acclaim, but there was no blueprints. So Tillinghast just laid the golf course out, and there was kind of,
Whatever
this
photos
is
you
where
can
probably
find
the
and
tees should go, and this is
bit of
it.
oral
So-
history, bit of digging.
yeah, so it's a bit of golden age architecture stuff, bit of raised greens, unique bunker shaping
nice.
squares and that sort of stuff.
Love it.
It's pretty sparse but really well-placed trees. If you look at it all, there's an occasional tree on a corner of a dogleg that shifts the line of play and everything like that. But we can expect them to go pretty low. There's not a lot of length
short, I
there.
imagine, yeah.
There's not a lot of the difficulty that the shock penalty of water hazards, etc., doesn't exist at a place like this.
But doesn't it remind us, though, Jimmy, that what we really want is not easy golf or hard golf, but interesting golf?
Correct.
And my expectation is that what we'll get at this course is interesting golf.
Correct.
And that's by far more important than...
And I think last week's a good reminder of the winning score is the winning score.
yeah.
Scotty Scheffler shot 31 under par.
Yep.
But, it's happened at all sorts of places where there's records of things. Years ago, I don't think he still holds the record, but Paul Gow had 32 birdies at the BC Open. BC Open wasn't a score fest every year. Lost in a playoff
That's
too.
good.
I wanted to mention that just so that Gowie knows that I remember.
I don't say that with any sort of malice.
Used
but
to
that
be
is-
cool.
that
It
is
used to be
cruel.
the Disney tournament where they went way
Disney,
low,
they used
wasn't
to
it?
go, yeah.
But it was 5 rounds, I think.
Yeah,
Was
I
it?
think
that's
so.
right.
Yeah. So, the winning score is winning
Hawaii.
score. So we'll see what it is. In terms of sponsor watch, Truist is a new sponsor, and Truist Financial Corporation is an American bank company headquartered in Charlotte, North Carolina, formed in December 2019 as a result of a merger of BB&T and SunTrust banks.
Sure, putting Truist in your name really attaches the sort of trustworthiness to it that you want. I mean, if you've got to tell people that you...
It's the Truist Bank.
But it's IST, isn't it? Truist.
Yeah.
What's your take on the logo, though? Have you done a breakdown? I always respect your information on this stuff always tells us things about what's really
Yeah, we always
going
want good oil.
Let me have a quick look at it.
on. I don't think you can
Oh.
like the font. Yeah, that's exactly the response I expected.
Yeah, no likey. It's got a funny crown looking thing with a golf
Yeah.
ball on top. That looks like an
Tournament
amalgam tournament logo. Yeah, but yeah, it's very generic. No good.
No.
No good.
In terms of players, obviously Scotty Scheffler is missing, which is not good for the event.
They
but
still get fined, Jimmy? I know I asked you this once before and we can't really tell.
I
can
don't
we?
know, to be honest. And I would imagine if a guy goes and plays a non-signature event like that, there's some sort of negotiation, because what Scotty did last week for the Tours event and for the Tour itself is far greater than him teeing it up this week. So Rory McIlroy is the defending champion, 4-time winner of this tournament in all of it. I think he's done it in all the different names of the tournament, which is quite a talent. That's rare. He's making his first individual start since he won the Masters and completed the career Grand Slam. Outside of Rory, you've got a lot of the higher-ranked FedEx Cup players, Sepp Straka, Ludwig Ober, Justin Thomas, Colin Morikawa. Always contentious, the invites into these events. This week we get Ricky Fowler, Jordan Spieth and Gary Woodland. No one ever questions a Gary Woodland invite after everything he's been through. Everyone seems to like Gary. We're all good with that.
For the moment.
For the
At the
moment.
moment. Hey, you can be Ferguson at any moment, Gary. Do not get complacent.
Hey,
my
he's
friend.
gone to caddy for his caddy on the Champions Tour who qualified for an event.
Stop it.
We love Gary. Jordan Spieth. I think Jordan's
80-20.
That's remarkable that he's an invite for
gets
these things.
so
It
many
has
of
to be,
them,
yeah.
but remarkable
Yeah.
that he needs them.
Yeah, absolutely.
But had a decent week last week. So
I think Jordan's on the comeback.
and then Ricky Fowler is Ricky Fowler. You know, it's you'd have some people who would say I deserve some claims. And interesting, the Aon, what is it called?
Swing 5? Or?
Swing 5. There was through that Eric Van Rooyen, I believe, gets in.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
Eric Van Rooyen's been one of the most critical people around signature events.
Good.
So last year he had a pop at it. He's had a little bit of another pop at it again. So he kind of says it's well and good for guys like, Wyndham Clark was one who spoke about it last year, and Rory about shrinking the tour effectively. Well and good for those guys, but how did the others get there? So
That's right.
Well, play better.
Should we be?
That's what he's demonstrated now, hasn't he? Like, there you go.
Now
There's his answer. He's
offside by
answered his own question by just playing better.
Now do the caddies by saying all they do is carry the equipment.
yeah,
If you want to upset the golf fraternity.
You're really
there's-
hitting all the classics here.
What do you think, though? Which is right? Smaller fields or more democracy or bigger fields and more players with a chance to make their pathway? It's kind of hard to say them each way. I don't know. Both have merit.
Correct. And I think we're going to see a whole lot of different iterations of this sort of stuff for the next couple of years while they work through what's happening in world golf.
The opportunity that PGA Tour missed with LIV was to set up PGA Tour Premium. They could have experimented with they could have been the whole LIV Golf model and just experimented with it outside of the week-to-week product and had the best of both worlds.
Exactly. Agreed. On the Aussie front in the field, to wrap this up, Cam Davis, Jason Day, Minwoo Lee and Adam Scott. You'd say probably Minwoo and Jason the most likely contenders from that group. So who do we think wins? Rod, we'll go to you first.
Well, no, because I've always got it right down the bottom of it.
Apparently,
I've got my tip ready. Can you go to...
Logue, we'll go to you then.
That because Rod wasn't expecting to be asked for a tip.
I'm ready now.
Russell Henley is my tip.
Yeah.
Low key, top 10 player in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And right up there in the FedEx Cup and everything like that.
He's
just
good, he's
churning it out.
extraordinarily good, and
Yeah.
his bad has gotten a whole lot better the last couple of years. He had a real fall-off in
Yeah.
there for a while.
Golf course this week as well. It means it's a hard thing to try and pick. Rod?
I'm going to go with Rory for the story. I really would like to see that. It would be lovely to see him counterpunch Scheffler in the face straight away in his absence, and would set up beautifully for the following week.
Do you want to win just the week before a major?
At the moment,
Not necessarily, but if you're that good, you
but where
just get out of
Rory
your
is
way.
right now, it's kind of like, we'll just wing it. If you win, you win. I don't think that'll be his, he's just going to go and play and see where it falls, I imagine, because he really is playing with house money. There's nothing left for Rory to achieve except what Rory feels like doing. And so,
I like it.
yeah.
I'm going to go with Colin Morikawa. Inconsistent year, but there's been some signs that it's close. Golf course maybe should fit a little bit, but something missing.
Is there something missing?
I think maybe what is about to be overcome. So Joe Greiner, caddy for Max Homer for a long time, childhood friend of Max Homer, sacks Max Homer because there's all sorts of dramas going on with Max Homer's game. Goes and fills in for Justin Thomas for a week. Justin Thomas wins. Now goes and is now full-time with Colin Morikawa. Genuinely a really, really good caddy.
But didn't Logue just tell us all they do is carry the equipment?
You said that. You put words in my mouth.
Well,
that's
I
where they
don't
ended up.
agree, and I think
What will help Colin Morikawa is not a better caddy, it's just play better.
Yeah.
Okay.
There we go. It all comes back to that.
Wow. On we go. Let's get out of that. And we go to you, Rod, and we're going to look at the Mizuho Americas Open on the LPGA Tour.
Indeed we are. And when I say we, I mean I will guide, but we are all part of this journey.
Yeah, we're a team.
We'll start with the sponsor watch. Mizuho, according to Wikipedia, Japanese financial services conglomerate.
I'm pretty sure we've been over Mizuho.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure we have to, and I don't think anybody was surprised even the first time around that they might have been a financial services conglomerate, but they are.
And I'm imagining quite a few punters are confused and think it's the
Mizuno,
because a lot of people go into golf
Especially
shops
in
and
golf.
can't say Mizuno. They say Mizuna.
Is that right?
Mizuma.
Has that been your experience
Oh,
in
all the
a
time.
golf shop? Really?
Yeah, all
What
the
else
time.
do they get wrong?
Strixon is Strixon.
Strixon.
Callaway is Galway.
Galway.
Yeah, because the C on the Callaway typical logo has a bit of extra
Does look a bit
la-di-da to it.
There's a bit of a
That's my
jig.
earballs.
Yes, you should try working in a pro shop.
Galway.
Anyway, back to you, Rod. Sorry.
Back to the golf. Third year of this event, we all remember that Rose Zhang won her first professional start here in 2023, which was the first year of the event. It's at the top end of the purses among the non-majors, so hence, as we tend to note regularly, an excellent field. 120 LPGA players and 24 girls from the American Junior Golf Association Tour, which is one of those nice initiatives in some ways, but I don't know if it's such a healthy system that AJ kids playing a tour. I don't know. I'm not sure, but it's a good thing for the 24 we've made, obviously. Liberty National in New Jersey, we've seen it plenty of times on the PGA Tour. Of course, there was that devastatingly bad internationals performance on the President's Cup in 2017, which teetered across the edge of embarrassing and actually was embarrassing. Almost over on Saturday night. They almost didn't need to play Sunday. I still can't get over that. That's a staggering result.
And embarrassing in a whole lot of other ways.
Oh,
as well,
absolutely.
with crowd behaviour and all sorts of
Yes, the American
a
fans-
window perhaps into what we're going to get at
Well,
the Ryder Cup at Bethpage in a couple of
Listen, the Ryder Cup at Bethpage could actually get very out of hand. I hope it doesn't, but there's potential for that. It's a spectacular setting. The course has been tweaked over the years and whatnot. It sort of does the job. It's not my favourite sort of golf, but
I don't mind this golf course.
I don't dislike it.
Pretty interesting.
There's some interesting elements to it. There's some interesting sort of stuff that feels a bit overdone, but they have changed a lot of it since they opened it. Winning scores have been 14 under and 9 under the last 2 times out, so there's enough birdies and bogeys to keep it interesting, enough interesting shot options. As I said, stacked field. Nelly is back to defend. Nelly's not quite Nelly yet this year.
No.
Is she going to be?
I don't know. I mean, she came back very late into the season, didn't play a lot of events early and has taken her time. I don't know.
There's been some good signs of grit from her after bad starts, and she's really fought back. That impresses me, but she doesn't seem to be getting the good golf going the way she was.
Yeah, it's now that time whether she's a generational player or she was in her window.
The Harrington 3-year window. Yeah, absolutely.
Is she Johnny Miller or is she Jack Nicklaus?
Oh, nice call. Tom
Nice.
Weisskopf, maybe. Yeah.
Well done.
Going well this morning, like, apart from all the people in golf you've upset, of course. Lydia Ko never played particularly well here, but this year's Lydia Ko, I think, is a different Lydia Ko. It's more like the Lydia Ko of 10 years ago, so she has always got to be considered a chance. Last week's winner, of course, Hey Yan Yu, great pick from you, Logue, and the re-energised Ronnie Yin, who we've all mentioned. Hannah Green's back this week. She was second here last year. That'll give us some confidence. Might be needed. It's been a real mixed bag for her this year. Either top 10 or splat kind of thing, which is not very Hannah Green, or the Hannah Green we'd come to know. So she'll be pleased to be looking at a course that she's done well at. I love this every week. Australians in the field. Minjee, Sarah Kemp, Gabby Ruffles, Steph Kyriakou, Grace Kim, and Hira Naveed.
Oh, you went with full names this week.
Well, why not?
Okay.
We don't need to, but just for those who might be coming along new. But it's been a long time since there was a tour. When was the last time we had that many players on, say, the PGA Tour or the LPGA? Every week,
years.
these players. If you're an Australian golf fan, it really is fantastic because there's legitimate contenders in there too, apart from just Hannah and Minjee Lee. My tip, though, for this week will be Yan Lu. Tied 9th and 4th in the last 2 weeks. Very, very impressive player, and I think she's probably about ready to win. Rookie, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Loke?
Well, I might be a little bit late on this, but I'm getting on your Esther Henselite. So, sorry, Jimmy. That's,
She was impressive. I watched a bit of the last round.
Yeah, I've been hearing you call her out for week after week, and now I actually watched her play a little bit, and I thought, oh yeah,
She had 4
can
straight
play.
top 20s and 2 of them top 5s.
Yep.
She's seriously good.
I feel like we focus more on the top players on the LPGA and ignore the lesser profile players who are doing well. You see more surprise people than what you tend to see in the men's game, I feel like. I don't know. There's more coverage of the men's game, so there's more coverage of more players, but we're very top-heavy in our coverage too, aren't we?
Yeah.
Names that people are surprised. Oh, Esther Henselite, I'd never heard of her before she won. It's like, well, if you'd watched the golf, she was kind of there and thereabouts for the last month, so...
Look, this is something we can take forward together now, Jimmy.
Yeah, well, I'm very much
Support.
on board and team Henselite.
I'm right there with you.
That was going to be my tip, but I'll take Hannah Green as a bounce back from that miscut at the Chevron, which is just
Or she'll be...
there will have been a lot of golf balls hit with a lot of extra
With a lot of
force.
energy, yes.
And even just from Hannah alone, but Richie Smith won't have let that go unnoticed. That's
There's shades of John Rahm about Hannah Green and her competitiveness, I feel.
Oh, yeah.
And a not happy Hannah Green is a dangerous Hannah Green
Correct.
if you're playing against her.
agree completely. Moving along, and Logue, who better to preview the International Series Japan presented by Mutai?
I guess that'd be me. So, that's the tournament name. Mutai.
I
might
know
be
all
wondering
about Mutai.
who they are. So, well, okay. For those who don't know who Mutai is, it's Chinese most valuable spirits brand, and I was really surprised to hear this. It's eclipsed Diageo as the most valuable spirits brand in the world.
They were a partner of the Australian Open last year.
Oh,
and I can tell you it's might be valuable, but it also does a fair job going down of igniting your sort of
53%
senses.
alcohol by volume.
What sort of drink is it?
Baiju is
It's like a whiskey
main thing.
type of
Yeah.
thing.
How do you experience it?
Well, you can have it in a cocktail, but you can also have it as you would any other thing
Straight
on the
nice.
rocks or something
Bottle,
like
the
that.
labeling on the bottle is pretty wild too. Actually, it's
Big, huge
interesting.
company. Yeah.
Interesting branding.
Yeah.
There you go.
So that's Muay Thai. So this tournament is being hosted at Caledonian Golf Club, which is not a top course in Japan. I mean,
Never heard of it.
Well, it's a very private course, and it's sort of top 30, top 50, certainly top 50 in Japan. Incredible presentation on their website. It's so not just on the website. This is drawing on many sources. It's described as a Scottish links mindset with US-style shaping, which sounds like it's got nothing to do with Scotland.
Sounds like it was made on a computer.
Water in play on 7 holes. Well, funny you should mention that, Jimmy, because probably the thing that makes this course most notable is that it's extremely well known on simulators.
Oh, okay.
It got laser measured a couple of years ago, and all of the top simulator vendors in Japan.
All golf
have
is
this
golf,
course.
so we're
and
all
it's an
for it?
extremely popular course on
Okay.
simulators. In
There you
fact,
go.
I've played it on a simulator.
Oh, okay.
Good walk.
I don't
Or did you
recall-
have to take cards?
I just recall a lot of water, a lot of sand, actually sort of big hills. And
What about a simulator with a simulated golf cart that you go and sit in after you've played your
Or
shot?
just
and
a
then it
treadmill next to you, so you got to
Yeah,
walk.
that's right.
It sets it up, it hooks it up, so you walk to your golf ball. That'd be good. I like that.
very good.
Genuine innovation.
As a international series event, it's been a little bit boosted by some live players. We've got Mito Pereira in there, Sam Horsfield, Uline, Cameron Tringali is playing.
Huge boost.
Yeah. Some significant Japanese players, Ryo Ishikawa, Yuta Ikeda, a couple of others. John Catlin is there, stalwart of this tour. Aaron Lucas Herbert.
Be a stalwart on a 3-year-old tour, is that
No, he's
possible?
Asian tour.
4-year-old? I know he's Asian. Oh, of course, yes, when I'm talking live, my mistake. I withdraw. My apologies.
Thank you. Lucas Herbert, Tom McKibben, adding a bit of interest there still. I think it's a name we're still tracking, although his form's been pretty poor. And your Asian tour standouts like Jazz.
Jane Watnanon.
Thank you. And a couple of others there. Some young guns as well. Caleb Surratt, I think, pretty interesting player.
Very interesting player, yeah.
Yeah. So Australians in the field, you've got aforementioned Lucas Herbert.
Say aforementioned,
Aforementioned.
not aforementioned.
Let's not get bogged down. in it.
Let's keep moving.
Sorry.
Travis Smythe, Mav Antcliffe, Scott Hand, Wayne Ormsby, a few others, Morgan, Aaron Wilkin, Jack Thompson, the usual suspects there. I'm actually really liking Lucas Herbert for this week. I think there's a good course fit. It's a beautifully presented course, and it's very penal. There's a lot of trouble. But I don't know, these guys, they just don't seem to see hazards at all. And most of the time, the longer hitters can just blow it over it. And Lucas Herbert, of course, one of the longest hitters in the world on any professional tour. And I think he's going to have very little problem with this course. So Lucas Herbert is
You
my
robbed me of another one of my tips. But so
I
we'll go to you,
thought
Robert.
about Lucas Herbert because
He won the last time he was in Japan.
yeah, and he's played some really good golf the last 2 weeks, but mixed with some not great
Yeah.
golf. So who knows? We said last week he's a momentum player. I did think about Lucas. Are you going to come to me next year?
Yes, I'm going to go to you while I just recalibrate on
Well,
the back
you
of
have a
that.
look through the
Yep.
field and see who else might be of interest.
Yep.
I'm going to go with cross this one off your list as well. Jazz Jane, what or not? He's
He
actually
was my
played.
second one.
Well, he's played very well the last 2 weeks. He was runner up last week, and so that's a young man in decent form, and I think he'll like the course here. So I'm going with Jazz.
Very solid. He finished second last week,
Yeah,
I
second.
think. Yeah. I am going to then just throw out a random one and go with Scott Hand.
Good. Would be
He won
fair.
on the European Legends Tour the other day. He's playing really good
missed
golf
that,
out
yeah.
there. So he won, I think it was 2 weeks ago he won out there. He's playing, as always, a lot of golf and playing some very good golf. And he's shown the last couple of years he still goes out onto the regular tour and does his thing
Oh,
and
yeah,
still
he
goes
can-
close. So
That'd be great to see.
It would be amazing.
and the exact course you describe is what he plays well. Despite him being always one of the longest guys on tour and whatever, he plays that sort of tough golf course very well. So
He's your journeyman is the wrong word, but he's your quintessential career professional who figures out how to get the ball around the golf course in line somehow.
There's something about professionals just showing up the edifice of like a tough course, penal courses.
Yes.
Because like if you can just like ignore all the penalties, you're putting the ball in incredibly easy spots, and it just becomes a birdie fest.
Well, that's a lot of
the toughest courses on tour seem to be a birdie fest. The better the golfer, the easier it is for them.
A lot of those guys who've played the Asian Tour for a long time, John Catlin and Scott Hand and all that sort of stuff, they're not necessarily the toughest golf courses that they've played, but some of them are not good.
No, conditions are difficult.
Condition-wise,
those ones, they have trouble
tight
scoring.
And they're pokey and they're all this sort of
You
stuff.
learn to play off some
so
pretty
you
poor
learn,
lies.
Yeah, exactly. You learn to recover from poor lies. You learn to not become frustrated that you've hit a good shot and it's blocked out by a tree that shouldn't be there. So that when it gets hard, they sort of rise a little bit. So I'll go with Scott Hand.
Go with Scott. I would, in fact, I want him to win more than Jazz now, even though I've tipped Jazz. I want Scott Hand to win.
Let's get a playoff.
In a playoff. Nice work.
Jazz and Handy in a playoff. I could deal with that. Finally, let's go back to you, Rod, and the DP World Tour, and you're going to give us a lowdown on the Turkish Airlines Open.
I am indeed, Jimmy, the Turkish Airlines Opens, which is, as I pointed out just before we started recording, the start of the European swing.
Yes.
What
How exciting.
is
For
the
a tour that
European
used to be the
Tour.
European Tour.
Yeah.
Pretty telling about the way world golf has changed. And there's some interesting things happening there, I think, as well. Those European swings, we've had the back nine, front nine, the DP World. Does anybody understand them? Are they worth doing? Do they just complicate things? I don't find the FedEx Cup interesting, and I don't think anybody really does.
I
Does
don't
anybody follow
understand them,
this?
but I want to hear about them each week. I want to know what swing.
Yeah,
I think
I'm the same.
I think this is one of these things where it's for the players. It is not for the fan to be across who's going to win the Asian swing in Europe, because there's things that come with being the top player on the Asian swing in terms of exemptions into other big events and everything like that. So tours have to build out these little sort of benchmarks throughout the season. Pathways because of how the game is now structured. So I think it makes sense for them. The fact that they then publicise it is, you go to the website and there's a little banner up in the corner that's a different colour for European swing. It's probably going to draw more criticism than it is praise.
Make it more interesting. Because I applaud the theory, the pathway, and at the end of this year, 10 players from the European DP World Tour will have cards to go and play in the US.
Yeah.
And that's a really important pathway for the fans who get to see them more often then, as well as for the players themselves. How do you sex it up to make it interesting? So we would invest in it. I can't think of...
I don't think...
Golf isn't like that. It's
No,
a series of 4-day events that don't have an overall...
I think for people like us who are within it a bit more, it's probably harder, but I think people still do get their player that they become a diehard fan of, and they might become more interested if it's explained a bit easier and a bit better. I think that's definitely proving true. I've seen that a fair bit over the last. Elvis Smiley's one, who there's a lot of people who have hooked onto Elvis Smiley because they've heard so much about him, and that's a big role of the tour here in Australia, is to tell the stories of these players better so that you hook into them and you know about David Micheluzzi and he loves cars and he does this and he does that, and so that you become a David Micheluzzi fan. And if you can then follow these things, that's probably how you do it, but otherwise it's quite difficult.
I just think if most golf courses that professional events were played on weren't so generically the same, then you could attach an identity of the type of golf that's required to win on the swing. So like it used to be a little bit in Florida, like if you're good off Bermuda, then,
correct.
Then the Florida swings for you, or the Texas. There's a type of golfer who tends to win in Texas, and there's a type of golfer that tends to win on bumpy greens in California or something like that.
That's a good idea. You could build out that platform. The tour itself could be, say, this style of golf has been shown to work well along this, and here are the players who are displaying. You could do something with it. I like that.
Yeah, it's like the clay court swing in tennis.
Exactly. So the differences between
grass court season,
hard court, and all that sort of stuff. Anyway, this, of course, is the precursor to the mini links swing that we'll have with the Scottish Open and the Open. Of course, the Irish Open sadly comes quite a bit later, quite a few weeks.
Style links with American style shaping.
Where did you? Where was that? Was
it Caledonia?
Yeah, Scottish style links with.
Maybe we started the link swing already.
Yeah, the venue for this week is nothing like a links golf.
Oh, that's exactly right. This week is not that.
Is it Scottish style?
No,
this is where
they used to tee off on the roof of the hotel,
one of the villas.
Okay. Do you know maple style syrup? It's not maple syrup. It's
it might surprise you to know who came up with that, Jimmy. It's Peter Thompson. This is a Peter Thompson golf course, Thompson, Perrott and Lob, the Carrier the Carrier golf course in Turkey. It's a Peter Thompson design from 2008, which I found really interesting. The condition, of course, will be impeccable. It's a resort course, lots of scoring chances, more trees than you would expect to find at a resort course generally, but trees somewhat like sawgrass is what comes to mind, where they seem to, all the foliage is at the top. It's quite bare underneath. You can get in and swing a club and hit it around there if there's not so many of them. You know, there's ways out from it. You hit off pine straw, that sort of thing. So it's got that sort of look at it. Fairway's not quite as wide as you'd also expect from a resort course, but these guys won't have trouble with that, as you pointed out, Logue. They do tend to adapt pretty quickly. Apparently, I must report, because everybody who's written anything about this golf course reports it's the only completely floodlit 18-hole course in Europe. So make of that what you will. Anybody else played night golf?
I have, yeah.
Yeah, I have too.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was just golf, but in the dark and less easy to see the ball.
It's a bit of fun. It's not bad.
Did you have to use a special ball?
No.
No, it's not bad in these places where it gets exceptionally hot.
Well, hot during the day. So I played in Malaysia.
So in the Middle East.
Still hot at night, but I don't know. I'm not sure.
Lakelands in the Gold Coast used to have 9 holes lit up. And not Lakelands, Emerald Lakes.
Emerald Lakes, that's right, yeah. Yeah, it's okay, but I'm not sure it's worth the investment of building all the light towers and the power that they burn so that a few people can whack a golf ball around at night. Anyway, the field's what we've come to expect from the DP World Tour, which is not a criticism. I've been watching more golf, as I mentioned the other week. Just things have changed, and it's fallen that quite often on a Sunday evening I can turn on the European Tour and watch it. It's really good golf with really interesting characters just being played away from the big spotlight of the PGA Tour. So as I said before, at the end of this season, 10 players are going to earn their way across to the US, and then they will have the chance to become more known. So these tournaments are important, and they are worth watching. It's not like you're watching dud golf. You're watching good golf. It just doesn't happen to be Rory and Scotty. This one's headlined by the likes of Hao Tong Lee, the roller coaster. You never know whether the roller coaster is even going to start with Hao Tong, and if it does, you never know where it might lead. He was also the winner of the supposed tournament on Highland Island. Have we confirmed that it actually happened, that tournament? It wasn't just a digital thing that took place? There's been no visual evidence.
No video or...
There was a leaderboard. It all looks like a golf tournament, but nobody's seen any pictures of an actual golf tournament. But Marco Pengji has a win and credit to his name, so we'll see what comes out of investigations into that Highland Island debacle. Dan Bradbury, Ewan Ferguson, Adrian Otaegi, former winner Dylan Fratelli, some really good players. We expect an exciting week. Daniel Gale, the only Australian in the field. Hayden Barron's second alternate, so he might be a chance, but Europe used to be our go-to tour for our players, didn't it?
I think Hayden Barron's unlikely to be there. He was caddying yesterday at the Interstate Series in Perth, so I don't reckon he's going to make a dash to Turkey.
Even if two people pull out, Hayden's obviously
I reckon he's unlikely to make that trip.
If you're third alternate, be ready.
Yeah, that's
because
right.
if it gets to the second, you're going to be in. It used to be our pathway, didn't it, Europe? I wonder whether it might be.
It is.
I don't know. The Asian tour is pretty attractive as well, but they can oscillate between the two.
Because, I mean, if you look at David Micheluzzi, for example, who's got that pathway out of the tour here, played so well last year that he's in the category above. He doesn't need to go and play all these events.
Yep.
It's a bit disjointed how the tour goes at the moment, so he has a plan in his schedule to take this period off to be fresh because it becomes very busy. Our guys obviously play a lot at the end of the year when our events are on and they start next season. Obviously, the 3 players who get cards from last season here don't start until the Aussie PGA later this year. So, I think there's more players there, but it's become a bit more of a disjointed tour. So you don't get every player showing up.
I was going to say, we seem to have a lot of fields where there's maybe 1 or 2 Australians or occasionally none. The South African events, obviously, at the end of the year clash with ours, and often you don't get any Australians in the field. But it felt like there was a time when the European Tour would have 10, 12 Australians in it, and there'd be 4 or 5 over on the PGA Tour. It just seems and feels a bit more disjointed now. But I do wonder whether that'll change. Those 10 cards to the US Tour, I know it's controversial. There's a lot of European Tour players who don't like it as a concept. I think it makes sense. It's the only way to do it. You have to have a Premier Tour. That is the PGA Tour, and you have to have pathways to it. And the European Tour is above the Corn Ferry Tour, and it's a good pathway to the PGA Tour. I think that will work out well for the European Tour over time.
And for anyone travelling from Australia, if they've come back here having played in Asia, this is a one out in Europe. Yeah. So they
long journey.
2 in China.
Yeah.
They had a week off. Yeah. They play this. Next week's the USPGA, and then they go back to Belgium a week after that.
That's right.
So it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Hard to get to.
It's hard to get to. It's expensive. There's all those sort of things. For example, Elvis Smiley has been announced. Well, will be announced this morning. He's getting a special exemption into the PGA Championship via winning the Order of Merit here.
Fantastic.
So he's not going to go to Turkey the week before and play there. Anyone who's in the PGA isn't going to go to Turkey, so it's one of those sort of
things. That's fantastic news. Well done, Elvis.
It is,
congratulations. Good for Australian fans too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Elvis is a player that's good for Australian golf. People want to watch him when he does well.
Agree completely.
It engages Australian golf fans, and that's a good thing.
Agree. So have we got some tips?
Never really got around to one, to be honest with you, because I just can't. I can't.
It's a show.
The whole objective
It's in the
of the show.
title.
I know, but every single player I thought of, I'm not so sure, So I'm going to climb on the Haotong Li roller coaster. He actually played really well here. I think last year he's played here.
He's played well here.
2018. This course he's played
Quite a few times.
Man, the form he's in at the moment, just buckle up, people.
Yeah.
It could be anything.
Very good, Logue.
Well, I tell you, since you mentioned that lights thing, I just love them to have a rain delay and then just go into the
Go
evening.
into light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or why don't they just lean into the whole thing and have half
One of
the
the
field
rounds.
tees off in the dark in one
Instead of
round?
morning, afternoon, have
Correct.
afternoon, evening.
Afternoon, evening.
I've got
Late,
the
late.
afternoon, evening,
Then
on the
what-
bad side of the
What,
draw.
are you early, late, or late, early? No, I'm late, late.
Then flip that draw. I'm just really intrigued by that concept. I hope there's no cows in the area though. That might get a bit confused by this fake sun that's
I
there.
have,
Just
I have
throw it
no
there.
idea what the cow population is like in this part of the world in Turkey.
I'm
Are
not sure
they,
about
they a
that.
cattle country? Or
Completely throw out their biologic clock. Anyway, I'm going with Alejandro Del Rey.
Nice.
I like it.
Nice.
He's had one win on tour.
3 names, 24 syllables.
Yeah, good. I'm going to go with Jordan Smith.
Smith, yeah, great strike.
Second at the Volvo China Open. Really good
course fit,
player.
actually.
Good golf course fit. Everything about
Very
it
much a hit
suggests-
fairways and greens, and you
Yeah.
don't have to putt the lights out. You just got to putt half decent.
And a player who, when he first came out on tour, won early,
Yep.
played really well, and I would have thought might have kicked on a little bit more and has kind of just stayed in that DP world to a good player.
He has some unfinished business after that event in China where he should have won.
Exactly.
And he knows he should have won, but he's playing well enough to win, so that's the upside.
Exactly.
Good call, Jimmy. I like it. Go, Jordan.
All right, that will just about do us for episode 111. Rod, this is the time of the week when you update us on what we can expect in the studio next week, and it is an audio medium, this, but I've been stripped of my new microphone stand that made Logue so jealous. So
Causing too much tension.
Too much tension. Can't
It's
have
affecting
it.
the show, the product. Ultimately, Jimmy, it's about the content and it's about the fans.
Yeah.
I do feel a little bit better. I feel 5% better that Jimmy's 5% less.
So just to clarify, your personality type is the type that enjoys it when other people lose something as opposed to you gaining something.
Yes.
I think that's pretty universal
depends-
across the group. Yeah.
That's right.
If it comes at your expense,
It's pretty bloody cutthroat at this table, I tell you what. We
It
take
is.
what we
It's
can
pretty
get.
tough, yeah. Logue, I assume you're working through a pool of players for the PGA now to start looking towards your comparisons.
Sure. Yeah.
Can I ask honestly and seriously, you picked another winner this week. Your record is extraordinary. Is it just dumb luck?
Yes.
It is trolling me. I cannot fathom.
Look, I can't explain it myself.
I'm honestly shocked off the back of us juicing our numbers through the TGL season, which is soon to be forgotten. But we've just
Served its
produced
purpose.
consistent winners since then. And to be at 27 wins at, what is it, the first week in May. Yeah.
We're like that stupid bloody octopus that was picking winners in the
World Cup, German World Cup.
What was its name? Actually,
You could ask the octopus. It can't explain to you what it was doing.
I like that they come up
We
with a
can't.
different one of those every World Cup. Maybe you can be the one for the next football World Cup.
yeah.
Yeah.
I like it.
All right, very good. You can, of course, follow all the action and so much more on the Golf Australia magazine website, golfaustralia.com.au, and get out and get a copy of the May print magazine on sale now. Jason Day is on the cover. There's a discussion about next week's PGA Championship preview, but also a discussion about its worthiness as a major championship, which is always an interesting conversation. There's also a Quail Hollow preview that's been done with a lot of the players' input on particularly the Green Mile, famous finishing stretch, one of the hardest stretches. So get ready for Green Mile chat
It's going
next
to be
week.
relentless, isn't it?
And Karen Harding also sat down with Kari Webb. There's a bit of chat about the Chevron Championship that was last week in that, because the magazine's been on sale for a little while. But
That'll be worthwhile.
Anytime there's Webb is good. Anytime there's Webb and Harding,
Yeah.
even better.
Yeah.
So worth
Fabulous reporter, Karen Harding. Good journo. She'll get good stuff out of Kari Webb.
absolutely. But that will just about do us. So thank you for listening, and we'll be back next week on Playing from the Tips.